नमस्ते एवरीवन, बोलिए सत्य सनातन वैदिक धर्म की जय। आज मैं दोबारा 7 बजे आ गया हूँ एंड भगवान की कृपा से मैं रोज़ इसी टाइम पहुँच जाता हूँ। कल संडे को थोड़ा लेट हो गया था क्योंकि मैं गलती से लेट उठा था एंड फिर उसी गलती को आगे दोहराते हुए खाना भी खा लिया एंड देन उसके बाद आई डिड माय लाइफ। तो अगर आपने वो क्लास नहीं देखी है तो वो आप जाके देख सकते हैं। दैट इज़ ऑन भगवद गीता व्हिच इज़ पार्ट 1 where we have covered a few shloks of chapter 1. We are doing the complete Bhagavad Gita in that playlist. उस प्लेलिस्ट में आप हर संडे के संडे एक नया लाइव देखेंगे और अगर आप उस लाइव से जुड़ना भी चाहते हैं तो आप जुड़ सकते हैं। आप देख भी सकते हैं वो लाइव और साइड बाय साइड हम बातचीत भी करते रहेंगे। अब हम वापस चलते हैं जैन फिलॉसफी में। जैन फिलॉसफी हमारा चल रहा था इन हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंडियन फिलॉसफी। ध्यान रखिएगा कि उसमें भगवद गीता का 9th चैप्टर भी है बिकॉज इट वाज मोर ऑन टू आस्तिक दर्शन, सो आई थॉट कि वो भी कवर करना चाहिए। हम जो नए भगवद गीता की प्लेलिस्ट है उसमें भी शायद 9th चैप्टर हो सकता है रिपीट करें so that the entire playlist is complete with all the 18 chapters. हम चलते हैं नए अपने चैप्टर में, दैट इज द जैन फिलोसफी में ही द डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ नायास। न्यायास नहीं है, नायास है, NAYAS, नायास। In framing judgments about things, there are two ways open to us. Firstly, we may notice the manifold qualities and characteristics of anything, but view them as unified in the thing. Thus, when we say this is a book, we do not look at its characteristic qualities as being different from it, but rather the qualities or characteristics are perceived as having no separate existence from the thing. यानी कि अगर हम एक बुक को बोलते हैं दिस इज अ बुक, हम उसमें ये नहीं बोल सकते हैं पेजेस अलग अलग हैं एंड ऑल दैट। इसका बेस्ट एग्जांपल आपको थ्री इडियट्स में मिल जाएगा इन विच जो कैरेक्टर है रैंचो का, उसमें जब वो अपने प्रोफेसर से वार्तालाप करता है रिगार्डिंग द डेफिनेशन ऑफ अ मशीन, तो वैसे ही उसके एग्जाम्पल में बताया गया जो उसके वो डेफिनेशन बाद में देता है फॉर द बुक, जैकेटेड नॉन जैकेटेड और बहुत सारे आइडियाज होते हैं एंड वेरियस अदर थिंग्स। तो वो दैट इज द थिंग कि हम डिफरेंट कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स वो बता रहे हैं, लेकिन टेक्निकली हम उसे तो बुक ही कहेंगे ना। और उसने डिफरेंट कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स बताए उस प्रोफेसर को एंड उसे कुछ समझ में नहीं आया बिकॉज अगेन हर एक इंसान उसे एज अ सेम थिंग ही देखता है कि अगर आपके पास बुक है तो विल कॉल इट अ बुक ओनली। Secondly, we may notice the qualities separately and regard the thing as a mere non-existent fiction. Yeah, which was clarified the Buddhist view, which was there in the Buddhist view. Thus, I may speak, yani ki the author is speaking of different qualities of the book separately and hold that the qualities of things are alone perceptible and the book apart from these cannot be found. यानी कि इन क्वालिटीज के अलावा कोई बुक मिल ही नहीं पाएगी। दीज टू पॉइंट्स ऑफ व्यूज आर रिस्पेक्टिवली कॉल्ड द्रव्य न्याय और पर्याय न्याय। The Dravya Nyaya again shows itself in three forms. The Parya Nyaya in four forms, of which the first form only is important for our purpose. The other three being important rather from the point of view of grammar and language had better be omitted here. The three Nayas under Dravya Naya are Negamanaya, Sangrahanaya and Vyavharanaya. ये एग्जाम में आ सकता है कि थ्री नयाज अंदर द्रव्य नया, नैगम नया, संग्राम नया एंड व्यवहार नया। When we speak of a thing from purely common sense point of view, we do not make our ideas clear or precise. Thus, I may hold a book in my hand, and when asked whether my hands are empty, I may say no. I have something in my hand, or I may say I have a book in my hand. It is evident that in the first answer, I looked at the book from the widest and most general point of view as a thing. whereas in the second I looked at its special existence as a book. Again, I may be regarding a page of a book, and I may say I am reading a book, but in reality, I was reading only one of the pages of the book. I may be scribbling on loose sheets and may say this is my book on Jain philosophy, whereas in reality, there were no books, but merely some loose sheets. This looking at things from the loose common sense view, in which we do not consider them from the point of view of their most general characteristic as being or as any of their special characteristics, but simply as they appear at first sight, is technically called negama standpoint, जो द्रव्य न्याय का सब फर्स्ट पॉइंट है। यानी कि हम बुक पढ़ रहे हैं, तो टेक्निकली हम बुक का चैप्टर पढ़ रहे हैं या फिर एक पेज पढ़ रहे हैं, तो हम बुक का 177th पेज पढ़ रहे हैं। बट अगर कोई ब्रॉडर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से बोलेगा तो वो यही बोलेगा कि आप एक बुक पढ़ रहे हैं। तो ये पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू जो है कि आप जनरलाइज कर रहे हैं, आप एक उसको ब्रॉडर पर्सपेक्टिव से बोल रही हैं, दैट इज कॉल्ड नेगमा पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू। राइट, इसमें सवाल बन सकता है कि ये जो स्टेटमेंट है ये किस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से लिया गया है, राइट। This empirical view probably proceeds on the assumption that a thing possesses the most general as well as the most special qualities, and hence we may lay stress on any one of these at any time and ignore the other ones. This is the point of view from which, according to the Jains, the Nyaya and Vaisheshika schools interpret experience. तो इस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से वैशेषिका एंड न्याय स्कूल्स जो थे, दे हैड डिफरेंट एक्सपीरियंसेस एंड दे यूज्ड टू हैव सर्टेन डिस्कशंस ऑन द सेम। तो वाद इन तीनों के बीच में भी हुआ है। संग्रहणया जो उसका सेकंड पार्ट था, is the looking at a thing merely from the most general point of view. Thus we may speak of all individual things from the most general and fundamental aspect as being. This, according to the Jains, is the Vedanta way of looking at things. संग्रह न्याय is the Vedanta way of looking at the things. ये भी एक सवाल बन सकता है, which is in Jain Darshana, which is the Vedanta way of looking at the things, where you are looking at things merely from the most general point of view. Thus we may speak of all individual things from their most general and fundamental aspects as beings. The व्यवहार न्याय point न्याय नया व्यवहार नया point standpoint holds that the real essence of things is to be regarded from the point of view of actual practical experience of the thing, which unifies within it some general as well as some special traits, which has been existing from past times and remain in future, but yet suffer trifling changes all the while, changes which are serviceable to us in 1,000 ways. Thus, a book has no doubt some general traits shared by all books, but its some special traits as well. Its atoms are continually suffering some displacement and rearrangement, but yet it has been existing as a book for some time past and will exist for some time in the future as well. All these characteristics go to make up essence of book, of your everyday experience, and none of these can be separated and held up as being the concept of a book. This, according to the Jains, is the Sankhya way of looking at things. पहले था वेदांता वे, संग्रह नया was Vedanta way, and व्यवहार वया is सांख्या way of looking at things. इसमें क्या हो रहा है कि जैसे मैं फ़ोन यूज़ कर रहा हूँ या फिर मैं कोई भी एलिमेंट यूज़ कर रहा हूँ, तो वो एक्चुअल में तो वो तो डिस्ट्रॉय हो ही रहा है सेकंड बाय सेकंड। अगर जैसे मैं वीडियो बना रहा हूँ, वीडियो से बैटरी जा रहा है, बैटरी अगर चार्ज होगी फिर डिस्चार्ज होगी तो बैटरी क्या लाइफ पे इफेक्ट पड़ेगा। तो अब जब बैटरी के लाइफ पे इफेक्ट पड़ेगा एंड आई एम यूजिंग दिस थिंग, टेक्निकली मेरे सामने तो ये सेम ही है, मेरे सामने इट इज नॉट डिफरेंट, बट ऑन द अदर हैंड इफ आई एम लुकिंग एट द सेम थिंग फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव कि ये इन द एंड तो फोन ही है and is being destroyed and rebuild whatsoever, बैटरी चार्ज डिस्चार्ज होगी तो चार्ज भी हो जाएगी, तो वो दैट इज हाउ यू लुक एट व्यवहार नया, वेयर उसका व्यवहार ही है ऐसा कि वो डिस्ट्रॉय होगा। अगर इंसान का व्यवहार ही है दैट इट इज गेटिंग किल्ड एवरी टाइम आई एम चेंजिंग, एवरी टाइम आई एम अ न्यू पर्सन, तो ये व्यवहार नया है, दैट इज द सांख्य वे ऑफ लुकिंग एट थिंग्स। The first view of Parayana, called Raju Sutra, is Buddhist view which does not believe in the existence of the thing in the past or in the future, but holds that a thing is a mere conglomeration at any given point. At each new moment, there are new collocations of new qualities, and it is these which may be regarded as the true essence of our notion of things. The Nayas are, as we have already said, are but points of view or aspects of looking at things, and as such are infinite in number. यानी कि there would be different points of view, but these are some point of view जिसके basis पे they used to do the vada or they used to have discussions. The Jains hold that the Naya Vaisheshika, the Vedanta, the Sankhya, and the Buddhists have each tried to interpret and systemize experience from one of the above 4 points of view, and each regards the interpretation from this point of view as being absolutely true to the exclusion of all other points of view. This is their error, Naya Bhasa. For each stand of a standpoint represents only one of the many points of view from which a thing can be looked. यानी कि वो ये कह रहे हैं कि Jains hold that न्याय वैशेषिका, the Vedanta and the Sankhya and the Buddhists each try to interpret and systemize experience from one of the above 4 points of view, and each regard the interpretation from his point of view as being absolutely true to the exclusion of all other viewpoints. And ये उनका एरर है जो कि नया भाषा बोलते हैं, for each standpoint represents only one of the many point of views from which a thing can be looked. The affirmation from any point of view are thus true in a limited sense under limited conditions. Infinite number of affirmations may be made of a thing from infinite point of views. Affirmations or judgments according to any naya or standpoint cannot therefore be absolute, for even contrary affirmations of the very self same things may be held to be true from other points of view. The truth of each affirmation is thus only conditional and inconceivable from the absolute point of view. To guarantee correctness, therefore, each affirmation should be perceived by the phrase Shat, maybe. This will indicate that the affirmations is only relative, made however from some point of view and under some reservations, and not in any sense absolute. There is no judgment which is absolutely true and no judgment which is absolutely false. All judgments are true in some sense and false in another. This brings us the famous Jain doctrine of Shaydwad. श्वादवाद, ये इसके बारे में हम अभी पढ़ेंगे। ये इसको थोड़ा मैं एक्सप्लेन करता हूँ। जो न्याय वैशेषिका, वेदांता, सांख्य एंड बुद्धिस्ट फिलॉसफी है, वो कहते हैं कि हम एक ही पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देखते हैं और वही पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू एक सत्य पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है, राइट। उन्होंने बस ये बोला। लेकिन इफ वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट जैन दर्शन सेज कि नहीं, आप किसी चीज को अनलिमिटेड पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देख सकते हो, किसी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से ये सही होता है, दूसरे पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से गलत होता है। जैसे द एग्जांपल ऑफ टेररिस्ट। टेररिस्ट क्या है, एक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से तो बिल्कुल गलत है कि हाँ वो जिनका कोई दोष नहीं है उन्हें मार रहे हैं एंड वेरियस अदर थिंग्स, बट अगर उनके पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देखा जाए, उनके पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से बिल्कुल सही है कि वो जो कर रहे हैं उससे उन्हें जन्नत नसीब होगी, राइट। तो मेरा ये कहने का मत है इसमें वेयर आप हर एक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देखोगे तब आपको सारी चीज एज ए कंप्लीट इमेज समझ में आएगी। अगर आप सिर्फ एक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देखोगे देन इट वुड बी वेरी डिफिकल्ट। जैसे मैं महाभारत के वस्त्रचीर हनन जो सीन था मैं उसका एग्जांपल देता हूँ, इन विच मैनी पीपल लुक द एंटायर थिंग फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ पांडवास। नाउ द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ पांडवास वाज कि हम अपने कर्म वचन से बंधे हुए हैं और उनका कर्म वचन था एक्चुअल में क्षत्रिय धर्म, तो उन्होंने क्षत्रिय धर्म अपना अपनाया नहीं, तो दे वर रॉन्ग। बट टेक्निकली जो कौरवों ने किया, कौरवोस वर बाउंड बाय देयर shrewd नेचर और नेचर ऑफ नेगेटिवनेस, तो उन्होंने वही धर्म अपना अपनाया, राइट। तो इसीलिए एट दैट टाइम द बेसिक फॉल्ट was Pandavas not attacking in the Rajya Sabha. If they would have attacked, then definitely they would have done a righteous thing, right? तो ये मल्टीपल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यूज हैं, तो उसमें ये बोला गया है। तो वो अब द डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ शादवाद, अब हम ये पढ़ेंगे। द डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ शादवादा holds that since the most contrary characteristics of infinite variety may be associated with a thing, affirmations made from whatever standpoint Naya cannot be regarded as absolute. All affirmations are true in some sharashti, or maybe it is sense. All affirmations are false in some sense. All affirmations are true in some shadasti, or maybe it is sense. All affirmations are false in some sense. All affirmations are indefinite or inconceivable in some sense. Shadavakta, yeah. All affirmations are indefinite and inconceivable को बोला हुआ shadavakta, yeah. All affirmations are true as well as false in some sense. Shadasti, shanasti. All affirmations are true as well as indefinite. Shadasti, chavaktavyascha. All affirmations are false as well as indefinite. All affirmations are true and false and indefinite in some sense. Is shadasti, sannesti, shadavaktavyascha. Thus, we may say the jug is or the jug has been, but is more correct to say explicitly that may be shat, that the jug is otherwise if being here to be is taken absolutely of any or every kind of being. It might also mean that there is a lump of clay or a pillar or a cloth or any other thing. The existence here is limited and defined in the form of a jug. The jug is does not mean absolute existence but a limited kind of existence as determined by the form of jug. The jug is thus means that a limited kind of existence, namely the jug existence, is affirmed and not existence in general in the absolute or unlimited sense. Therefore, then the sentence the jug is might as well mean the clay is, the tree is, the cloth is, etc. Again, the existence of the jug is determined by the negation of all other things in the world. Each quality or characteristic, such as red, of the jug is apprehended and defined by the negation of all the infinite varieties, such as black, blue, golden, etc., all its classes, and it is by this combined negation of all its infinite number of characteristics or qualities other than those constituting the jug that a jug may be apprehended or defined. यानी कि इसमें बोला हुआ है कि जग अगर हम बोलते हैं तो उसके सारी प्रॉपर्टीज एंड ऑल उन सब का एक मिश्रण होता है, एंड जो जग इज मीन्स दैट इज लिमिटेड एग्जिस्टेंस, यानी कि हम जो जग है दैट इज only that, no other property of it is being said. What we call the being of the jug is thus the non-being of all rest except itself. यानी कि when you are saying the jug is there, तो तब उसके अलावा there is nothing else. Thus, though looked at from one point of view, the judgment, the jug, is may mean affirmation of being. Looked at from the another point of view, it means an affirmation of non-beings of all other objects. Thus, of the judgment, the jug is, one may say that maybe it is an affirmation of being shadasti. May it is a negation of being sannasti. Or I may proceed in quite another way and say it the jug is means the jug is here, which naturally indicates that this jug is not there. Thus, the judgment the jug is, that is here, also means the jug is not there, and so we see that the affirmation of the being of the jug is true only in this place and false in another, and this justifies us in saying that maybe that is not sense the jug is, and maybe in some sense that jug is not. यानी कि फोन यहाँ है, मैं ये बोल रहा हूँ, और फोन वहां नहीं है। तो फोन यहाँ है, इसमें मतलब मैं ये एक्सप्लेन करना चाह रहा हूँ कि फोन यहाँ है और यही है, लेकिन वहां नहीं है, राइट। ये थ्योरी समझनी पड़ेंगी आपको, ये अगर आपको थोड़ा और एक्सप्लेनेशन चाहिए तो आप ये वीडियो दोबारा देख पाएंगे। दीज थिंग्स आर गोइंग वे डीपर, कि हम किसी चीज़ की एग्जिस्टेंस या नॉन एग्जिस्टेंस पे बात कर रहे हैं। हमें इसका मेन एम जो हमारा पहले भी था, ये तो जग के रूप में बताया गया है, बट बेसिक एम for all the philosophies was to find out whether or not what is the truth, right? And so we see that the affirmation of the being of the jug is true only in this place and false of another. And this justifies us in saying that maybe that is some sense of the jug is, and maybe in some sense that the jug is not. Combining these two aspects, we may say that in some sense maybe that the jug is, and in some sense maybe that the jug is not. We understood here that if we put emphasis on the side of characteristics constituting being, we may say the jug is, but if we put emphasis on the other side, we may as well say the jug is not. Both the affirmations hold good of the jug, according as the emphasis is put on either side. But if without emphasis on either side, we try to comprehend the two opposite and contradictory judgments regarding the jug, we see that the nature of the jug or of the existence of the jug is indefinite, unspeakable, and inconceivable, avaktavya. For how can we affirm both beings and non-beings of the same thing? And yet, such is the nature of thing that we cannot but do it. Thus, all affirmations are true, are not true, are both true and untrue, and are thus unspeakable, inconceivable, and indefinite. Combining these four, again, we derive another three. This is some sense. This, in some sense, it may be that the jug is yet unspeakable, that the jug is not and is unspeakable, or finally that the jug is not and is unspeakable. Thus the Jains hold that no affirmations or judgment is absolute in its nature. Each is true in its own limited sense only, and for each one of them any of the above seven alternatives technically called Saptabhangi holds good. The Jain says that other Indian systems, each from their own point of view, asserts itself to the absolute and the only point of view. They do not perceive that the nature of reality is such that the truth of an assertion is merely conditional and holds good only in certain conditions, circumstances, or senses upadhi. It is thus impossible to make any affirmations which is universally and absolutely valid. For the contrary or contradictory affirmations will always be found to hold good of any judgment in some sense or other. As all reality is partly permanent and partly exposed to change of the form of losing and gaining old and new qualities, and is thus relatively permanent and changeful. So, all our affirmations regarding truth are also only relatively valid and invalid. Being, non being, and indefinite, the three categories of logic are all equally available in some sense or other in all their permutations for any and every kind of judgment. There is no universal and absolute position and or negation, and all judgments are valid only conditionally. The relation of Naya doctrine with the Shadvada doctrine is therefore this, that for any judgments according to any or every Nyaya, there are many alternatives are as are indicated by the Shadvada. The validity of such a judgment is therefore only conditional. If this is borne in mind when making any judgment according to any Naya, the Naya is rightly used. If, however, the judgments are made absolutely according to any particular Naya, without any reference to other Nayas as required by the Shadvada doctrine, the Nayas are wrongly used in as in case of other systems, and then such judgments are false and should therefore be also called false Nayas, Nyaya Bhasha. इसका एक्सप्लेन करता हूँ कि मैंने पानी पिया. अब मैंने कब पानी पिया, किससे पानी पिया, क्या मैंने ग्लास से पानी पिया, नहीं. क्या मैंने बॉटल से पानी पिया, हाँ. तो जब ये हम सारे कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स यानी कि जितने भी नया हैं उन सबको जोड़ते हैं, उन सबके सारे पर्सपेक्टिव्स जोड़ते हैं, देन ओनली इट इज अ ट्रू स्टेटमेंट. लेकिन एक अकेली स्टेटमेंट कि पानी पिया, किस में पिया, कैसे पिया, कब पिया, ऑनलाइन के बीच पिया, वीडियो रिकॉर्डिंग बंद करके पिया है, कैसे पिया, ऑल दीज थिंग्स आर अ पार्ट ऑफ व्हाट डू यू कॉल एज नाया भाषा. कि नया भाषा जो है फॉल्स नयास, ये तब होता है जब आप ऑल्टरनेटिव नयास या फिर जितने भी बाकी नयास हैं वो नहीं बताते हो. जब आप बाकी सारे नयास बताते हो कि जैसे फ़ोन यहाँ है वहाँ नहीं है, राइट. फ़ोन यहाँ है अभी इसी वक्त है, उसके बाद कहाँ है पता नहीं, उससे पहले कहाँ था ये बताइए. तो तब ये सारी जो थ्योरी है दैट विल कम एज षड्वादा. या अगर हम जितने भी नयाज हैं बिना किसी अदर नया के बोल रहे हैं तो उसे हम बोलेंगे नया भाषा यानी कि फॉल्स नयाज. knowledge its value for us. The Buddhist Dharmottara in his commentary of Nyaya Bindu says that people who are anxious to fulfill some purpose or end in which they are interested value the knowledge which helps them to attain that purpose. It is because knowledge is thus found to be useful and sought by men that philosophy takes upon it the task of examining the nature of true knowledge, samya or pramana. The main test of true knowledge is that it helps us to attain our purpose. The Jains also are in general agreement with the above view of knowledge of the Buddhists. They also say that knowledge is not to be valued for its own sake. The validity, pramanya, of anything consists in this, that is directly helps us to get what is good for us and to avoid what is bad for us. The knowledge alone has its capacity by it we can adapt ourselves to our environments and try to acquire what is good for us and what is bad. The conditions that lead to production of such knowledge, such as the presence of full light and a proximity of the eye in the case of seeing the object by visual perception, have but little relevance in this connection. For we are not concerned with how a cognition is produced, as it can be of no help to us in serving our purpose. It is enough for us to know that external objects under certain conditions assume such a special fitness, yogyata, that we can have a knowledge of them. We have no guarantee that they generate knowledge in us, for we are only aware that under certain conditions we know a thing, whereas under other conditions we do not know it. The inquiry is to the nature of the special fitness of things which makes knowledge of them possible does not concern us. Those conditions which confer such a special fitness on things as to render them perceivable have but little to do with us. For our purposes, which consist only in the acquirement of good and avoidance of evil, can only be served by knowledge and not by those conditions of external objects. यानी कि जो भी हम कोई चीज़ देखते हैं वो अपने एक पर्टिकुलर एस्पेक्ट्स के साथ आती हैं एंड उसकी अपनी एक योग्यता होती है, हम उस पूरी नॉलेज को लेते हैं एंड नॉलेज जो नहीं है वो भी होती है, देन इट्स अ कंप्लीट नॉलेज. Knowledge reveals our own self as the knowing object as well as the object that we are known by, that is known by us. उसमें ये बोला गया कि हम किसी चीज़ को परसीव करते हैं, उसकी बेसिस कैसे परसीव कर रहे हैं ये नॉलेज होना इतना इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं है, बल्कि दिस इज मोर इम्पोर्टेंट कि क्या नॉलेज है, क्या हम परसीव कर रहे हैं, राइट. Experience shows that true knowledge on the one hand reveals us as objects or knowers, and on the other hand gives a correct sketch of the external objects in all the diversity and their characteristics. Thus, knowledge, when imparted directly in association with the organs and self perception, is very clear, vivid, and with organs in sense perception is very clear, vivid, and distinct, and is called perception, pratyaksha. When attained otherwise, the knowledge is not so clear and vivid and is called non perception, paroksha. Right? Theory of perception, pratyaksha. Paroksha. Knowledge and notion, jivas. Karma theory. Karma ashra nirjara. Pudgala. Dharmadharaka. Akasha. Rules of conduct. Jain atheism. Moksha. थिंक कवर कर सकते हैं. Theory of perception. The main difference of the Jains from the Buddhists in the theory of perception lies, as we already seen, is this, that the Jains think that perception, pratyaksha, reveals to us the external object just as they are with most of the diverse characteristics of color, form, etc. And also in this, the knowledge arises in the soul from within it, as if by removing a veil which has been covering it before. Objects are also not mere form of knowledge, as the Vigyan within, Vigyanvadin Buddhist thinks, but are actually existing. Knowledge of external objects by perception is gained through the senses. यानी कि हम आँखों से देख पाते हैं, त्वचा से छू पाते हैं, right? The exterior physical sense, such as the eye, must be distinguished from the invisible faculty of power of vision of the soul, which alone desires the name of sense. Deserves the name of sense. We have 5 such cognitive senses, but Jain thinks that since by our experience we are only aware of 5 kinds of sense knowledge corresponding to the 5 senses, it is better to say it is the self which gains of itself those different kinds of sense knowledge in association with those exterior senses, as if by removal of a covering on account of existence of which the knowledge could not reveal itself before. तो they think कि जो फाइव सेंसर ऑर्गन्स है, क्योंकि हम उसके पहले तो देख नहीं पा रहे हैं, तो वही हमारा सेल्फ है और वही हमारा जो सारी चीज़ें हैं वो कॉग्नाइज कर रहा है. Non-perceptual knowledge. Non-perceptual knowledge, which is paradox, differ from pratyaksha in this, that it does not give us so vivid a picture of object as latter. यानी कि पहले अगर हम कोई चीज़ देख रहे हैं तो इट इज़ प्रत्यक्ष कि हमें इमेज दे रहा है, सब कुछ दे रहा है, बट इसमें हमें इमेज नहीं मिल रही है, इतनी क्लियर नहीं मिल रही है जितनी क्लियर प्रत्यक्ष knowledge में मिलती है. Since the Jains do not admit that the senses had any function in determining the cognition of the soul, the only distinction they could draw between the perception and other forms of knowledge was that the knowledge of the former kind, perception, gave us clearer features and characteristics of objects than the latter. Paroksh thus includes inference, recognition, implication, memory, etc., and this knowledge is decidedly less vivid than perception. Regarding inference, Jains hold that it is unnecessary to have five propositions, such as the hill is fiery because of smoke, wherever there is smoke, there is fire, such as that kitchen, the hill is smoky, therefore it is fiery, called the respectively pratigya hetu, drishtanta, upanaya and nigamana, except for the purpose of explicitness. It is only the first two propositions which actually enter into the inferential process, which is the hill is fiery because it is smoky. तो ये what they are saying is, जो इसमें परोक्ष है, इसमें क्योंकि आपको बाकी सारी चीजें तो दिख नहीं रही हैं. अब द हिल इज फेरी बिकॉज इट्स स्मोकी, ये है क्योंकि हमें तो स्मोकी लगी, फेरी लगी दी है. अब क्या पता उसमें वैसे ही धुआं उठ रहा हो या फिर वैसे ही आपने गैस छिड़की हो या कुछ हो. सॉरी, कॉफी पीना भूल गया था मैं आज. ठीक है. नॉलेज ऑफ रेवलेशन. पिछले वाला समझ में आया. पिछले वाला ये कहते हैं कि आपको न्याय दर्शनास में जो प्रतिज्ञा हेतु दृष्टांत उपनयन निगमना, ये जो चीज़ें हैं, ये चीज़ें सारी दिखाते हैं. ये चीज़ें पांचों की पांचों होनी ज़रूरी नहीं है, पहली ही ज़रूरी है. तभी परोक्ष को ये उन्होंने बोला हो कि जैसे दूर कहीं आवाज़ आ रही है तो कोई बोल रहा है, बट उसमें हमें ये नहीं पता क्या बोल रहा है, कौन है, बट वी आर जस्ट हेयरिंग द नॉइजेस. तो उस चीज़ को परोक्ष बोला गया है. ये जस्ट एक अनदर एग्जाम्पल मैंने दिया है. Knowledge as revelation. The Buddhists had affirmed that the proof of existence of anything depended upon the effect that it could produce on us. That which could produce any effect on us was existent, and that which could not, non-existent. The fact production of effect was with then the only definition of existence being. Theoretically, each unit of effect being different from any other unit of effect, they suppose that there was a succession of different units of effect, or what is the same thing, knowledge as succession of new substance every moment. All things were thus momentary. The Jains urge that the reason why the production of effect may be regarded as the only proof of being is that we can assert only that thing, the existence of which is indicated by a corresponding experience. यानी कि जो भी हमारा एक्सपीरियंस है उसके बेसिस पे दैट थिंग इज एग्जिस्टिंग, एंड उसी के बेसिस पे नॉलेज आ रहा है, रेवलेशन आ रहा है. जैसे कि पहले उसमें बोला था नॉन परसेप्चुअल नॉलेज में कि हिल इज फेरी बिकॉज इट्स स्मोकी. तो स्मोकी है तभी फेरी है, दैट इज व्हाई इट इज रिवील्ड दैट द हिल इज स्मोकी. The Jivas. The Jains say that experience shows that all things may be divided into the living, Jiva, and the non-living, Ajiva. The principle of life is entirely distinct from the body, and it is most erroneous to think that life is either the product or the property of the body. It is on account of this life principle that the body appears to be living. The principle is the soul. The soul is directly perceived by introspection, just as the external thing are. It is not a mere symbolic object indicated by a phrase or a description. This is directly against the view of great Mimamsa authority by Prabhakar. The soul is in its pure state is possessed of infinite perceptions, Ananta Darshana, infinite knowledge, Ananta Jnana, infinite bliss, Ananta Sukha, and infinite power, Ananta Vidya. It is all perfect. Ordinary, however, with the exception of few realized pure souls, Mukta Jiva, all other jivas, samsarin, जितने भी other जीव्स हैं संसार में, have all their purity and power covered with the thin veil of karma, matter which has been accumulating in them from beginningless time. These souls are infinite in number. They are substance and are eternal. They in reality occupy innumerable space point in our mundane world, Lokakasa, have a limited size, madhyama, puriman, and are neither all pervasive vibhu and non atomic anu. It is on account of this that jiva is called jivastikaya. The word astikaya means anything that occupies space or has some pervasiveness. But these souls expand and contract themselves according to the dimension of the body which they occupy at any time, bigger in the elephant and smaller in the ant life. It is well to remember that according to the Jainas, the soul occupies the whole of the body in which it lives, so that from the tip of hair to the nail of the foot, wherever there may be any cause of sensation, it is once feel it. Now that is very important. This is how Jain Darshana, being Nastik Darshana, is different from Buddhist Darshana. Darshana uh, does not accept the testimony of Atman, but they accept the testimony of Atman. They accept that there is Atman. They accept there is a soul, and they accept that soul is covering our entire body, which is from our tip of the head to the नेल लास्ट टिप ऑफ नेल ऑफ द फुट, जहाँ पे भी सेंसेशन होता है वहाँ पे आपकी आत्मा विराजमान है. जैसे आप कहेंगे बालों में, बिल्कुल बालों में सेंसेशन होता है. अगर मैं हल्के से बाल भी छूता हूँ, ये मुझे सेंसेशन होता है. दैट इज द रीजन के इसको ये बोला गया है दैट आत्मन इज ऑल्सो देयर. कर्म थ्योरी. It is on account of their merits or demerits that the jivas are born as good men, animal, and denizens of hell, etc. We have already noticed in chapter 3, जो पहले किया था, that the cause of the embodiment of the soul is the presence of the karma matter. The natural perfection of the pure soul is sullied by the different kinds of karma matter. Those which obscure right knowledge of details, jnana, are called jnana varaniya. Those which obscure right perception, darshana, as in sleep, are called darshan varaniya. Those which obscure the bliss of a nature of the soul and thus produce pleasure and pain are vedaniya. And those which obscure the right attitude of these four kinds of right attitude of the soul towards faith and right conduct is mohaniya. इन एडिशन टू दीज फोर काइंड्स, ये काइंड्स आपको याद करने हैं, शायद ये एग्जाम में आ सकते हैं, जिसमें ज्ञान वादनीय, दर्शन वादनीय, वेदनीय, मोहनीय, ये जितने भी चार काइंड्स ऑफ कर्म हैं वो करने. इन एडिशन टू दीज फोर काइंड्स ऑफ कर्म, there are other four kinds of karma which determine the length of life in any birth, the peculiar body in which its general and special qualities and faculties, then the nationality, caste, family, social standing, etc., the inborn energy of the soul by the obstruction of which it prevents the doing of a good action, when there is a desire to do it. These are respectively called ayushka karma, nam karma, gotra karma, antaraya karma. Ayushka karma, the length of life, peculiar body in which general and special qualities, नाम कर्म, right? गोत्र कर्म यानी कि आपका nationality, caste, family, social standing, etc. And anantaraya karma, right? So this is how it is being there. Now they also believe in the testimony of karma कि जैसे हम कर्म करेंगे उसी के बेसिस पे हमारी बॉडीज डिसाइड होती हैं. जैसे कई बार आप देखते हैं एक बॉडी एज अ ह्यूमन बीइंग आपको बॉडीली थिंग्स मिलती हैं एंड यू हैव द बॉडी सेंसेस हैंड्स वेरियस अदर थिंग्स, कईयों की काम नहीं करती हैं. मैनी पीपल आर जिन्हें स्पेशल पीपल बोला जाता है, राइट? तो उनकी काम नहीं करती हैं. एंड दैट इज व्हाई वी लर्न इन डिजाइन एज वेल कि हाउ टू मेक थिंग्स वेरी कंफर्टेबल फॉर देम, राइट? तो वो भी उनके पूर्व कर्म ही है जिनकी वजह से उन्हें वो शरीर मिला है, राइट? कर्म आश्रव निर्जरम. It is on account of karma that the souls have to suffer all the experiences of this world process, including births and rebirths in diverse spheres of life as gods, men, or animals or insects. The karmas are certain sort of infra-atomic particles of matter, karma vargana. The influx of these karma particles into the soul is called ashrava in Jainism. यानी कि जितने भी हमारे वो समझते हैं कि कर्म पार्टिकल्स हैं जो बनते हैं. टेक्निकली ये थ्योरी भी सही है कि अगर हम कोई कर्म करेंगे तो वो हमें ही पता होगा, सबको नहीं पता हो सकता है. लेकिन अगेन जो कर्म पार्टिकल्स हैं क्योंकि उन्हें पता है कि हमने गलत काम किया है सही काम किया, उसके अनुरूप फल हमें मिलेगा, राइट? These karmas are produced by body, mind, and speech. The ashravas represent the channel or the modes through which the karmas enter the soul, just like the channel through which water enters into the pond. But the Jains distinguish between the channels and the karmas which actually enter from those channels. Thus, they distinguish the two kinds of ashravas, bhavashravas and karmashravas. Bhavashravas means the thought activities of the soul through which uh, or on account of which the karma particles enter the soul. Thus, Nemi Chandra says that Bhavashrava is that kind of change in the soul which is the contrary to which can destroy the karmashrava, by which the karmas enter the soul. Karmashrava, however, means the actual entrance of the karma matter into the soul. Now, these bhavashravas are in general the five kinds, namely delusion, mithyatva, want of control, avirati, inadvertence, paramada, the activities of body, mind, and speech, yoga, and the passions, kasayas. Delusion again is of five kinds, namely ekant, the false belief knowingly accepted and uncritically followed; viparita, uncertainty as to the exact nature of truth; vinaya, retention of a belief knowing it to be false due to old habit; samasya, doubt as to right or wrong; and ajnana, want of any belief due to want of application of reasoning powers. Avirati is again the five kinds: injury, himsa; falsehood, anartha; stealing, chaurya; incontinence, abrahma; and the desire of having things which one does not already possess, parigraha kanksha. Parigraha kanksha. Parmada or inadvertent is again of five kinds, namely bad aversion, bad conversation, vikatha; passions, kasaya; bad use of five senses, indriya; sleep, nidra; attachment, raga. Raga doi. So many of the things that have been taken from Nyaya Darshana as well, right? Now we come to the Pudgala. The Avija non-living is divided into Pudgalastikaya. द धर्म धर्मस्तिकाया अधर्मस्तिकाया आकाशतिकाया काल पुण्य पाप। तो ये सारे पुद्गलास हैं। नॉन लिविंग इज डिवाइडेड इनटू पुद्गलस्तिकाया, यानी कि जो भी हम कर्म करेंगे, जिसे आप बोल सकते हैं कि धर्म, व्हाट इज योर धर्म, right? The word pudgala means matter, and it is called astikaya in sense that it occupies space. Pudgala is made up of atoms which are without size and eternal. Matter may exist in two states: gross, such as things which we see around us, and subtle, such as the karma matter which sullies the soul. The material things are ultimately produced by the combination of atoms. The smallest individual particle of matter is called an atom anu. The atoms are all eternal and they all have touch, taste, smell, and color. The formations of different substances is due to the different geometrical, spherical, and cubical modes of combination of the atoms, to the diverse modes of their inner arrangement, and to the existence of different degrees of interatomic space. Ghana Pratara Bhedana. Some combination take place by simple mutual contact of 2 points, Yugma Pradesha, whereas in others the atoms are only held together by points of attractive force, Ajaha Pradesha, Pragya Panopanga Sutra. Right? Dharma Adharma Akasa. The concept of dharma and adharma in Jainism is absolutely different from what they mean in other systems of Indian philosophy. Dharma is devoid of taste, touch, smell, sound, and color. It is it is conterminous with the mundane universe Lokakasha and pervades every part of it. The term astikaya is therefore applied to it. It is the principle of motion, the accompanying circumstances or cause which makes motion possible, like water to a moving fish. The water is a passive condition or circumstances of the movement of fish. That is, it is indifferent or passive, udasin, and not a active or solicitous, preraka, cause. The water cannot compel a fish to rest or move, but if the fish wants to move, water is then the necessary help to it motion. Dharma cannot make the soul or matter move, but if they are to move, they cannot do so without the presence of dharma. Hence, the extremity of the mundane world, lok, is in the region of the liberated soul. There being no dharma, the liberated souls attain perfect rest. They cannot move there because there is not the necessary motion element, dharma. Adharma is also regarded as similar pervasive entity which helps jivas and pudgalas to keep themselves at rest. No substance could help move it if there were no dharma, or could remain at rest if there is no dharma. The necessity of admitting these two categories seems probable to have been felt by the Jains on account of their notion that the inner activity of the jiva of the or the atoms require for their exterior realization and the help of some other extraneous entity, without which this could have been transformed into actual exterior motion. The category of Akasha is that a subtle entity which pervades the mundane universe Loka and the transcendent region of the liberated souls Aloka, which allows the substance of all other substances such as Dharma, Dharma, Jiva, Pudgal. It is not a mere negation and absence of wheel or obstruction or mere emptiness, but a positive entity which helps other things to interpenetrate it. On account of its pervasive characteristic, it is called आकाशास्तिकाया. इसमें ये कहना चाह रहे हैं कि देखिए, हम कोई कर्म करते हैं तो हमारा कर्म करना ये कहते हैं धर्म। उसमें कहते हैं कोई भी चीज मूव कर रही है, समथिंग इज मूविंग, दैट इज धर्म, एंड समथिंग इज जस्ट स्टिल, दैट इज अ धर्म। वाटर स्टिल है, राइट, दैट वी दे कैन कॉल एज अ धर्म, बट वाटर मूविंग है, दैट इज धर्म। अब मछली चल रही है, मछली तैर रही है इन पानी में, तो वो धर्म है। पर मछली स्टे है, दैट इज अ धर्म, बट वाटर हेल्प्स इन मेकिंग इट स्विम। तो वही कह रहे हैं कि वाटर जो है वो ना, उसको वो हेल्प तभी कर रहा है कि जब वो खुद स्विम करना चाहे। वैसे ही वो हमारी प्रकृति से ये एक्सप्लेनेशन ये है कि ये प्रकृति से इस कदर जुड़े हुए हैं कि अगर हम कुछ अच्छा काम करना चाहें तो प्रकृति हमारी हेल्प करेगी, अगर हम कुछ अच्छा कर्म नहीं करना चाहें तो प्रकृति हमारी हेल्प नहीं करेगी, मतलब कि इट वोंट से एनीथिंग, राइट। तो अगर हम धर्म कर रहे हैं तो यानी कि हम कोई कार्य कर रहे हैं, एंड दैट इज हेल्पिंग। अगर हम कोई कार्य नहीं कर रहे हैं देन देयर इज नो इशू। जैसे अभी फोन है, फोन में लाइव मैं चलाऊंगा तो इट विल हेल्प मी गोइंग आउट इन लाइव ऑन यूट्यूब और एनी अदर ऐप। बट अगर मैं वो ऐप चलाऊंगा ही नहीं तो it will not help me go to live and explain the process or the theories of philosophy. बेसिकली आप ये कह सकते हैं कि अगर आपको न्याय फिलॉसफी पता है तो आपको सारे एलिमेंट्स का पता होगा, इन सारे एलिमेंट्स से आप रिलेट कर पाएंगे। रीजन बीइंग कि जब भी आप न्याय दर्शन या बाकी सारे दर्शनों में धर्म, अधर्म और आकाश को देखेंगे तो इट्स वेरी सिमिलर थिंग्स, कि हम कर्म कर रहे हैं तभी वो धर्म है, अगर हम उसके विपरीत कर्म कर रहे हैं तो अधर्म है। इसमें विपरीत को नहीं बोला गया, इसमें बस ये बोला गया है कि वो द पर्सन इज जस्ट स्टेबल, दैट पर्सन इज नॉट मूविंग, और दैट ही इज नॉट मूविंग, और द मछली नहीं मूव कर रही है। एंड आकाश को ये बोला गया कि जो भी एनवायरनमेंट है, ये जैसे जिस हवा में मैं बैठा हूँ, दैट इज द एंटायर थिंग, और ये जो चीज है दैट इज द आकाश, विच इज द एलिमेंट। अब हम इस लाइव को यही विराम देंगे। हम काल, समय, जैन योग और जैन एथीज्म एंड फाइनली मोक्ष, ये हम कल के लाइव में हम कवर करेंगे। आपको आज का लाइव कैसा लगा आप मुझे बताइए। थोड़ी कंफ्यूजिंग थ्योरीज है, लेकिन अगर आप इसको ध्यान से देखेंगे या फिर दोबारा रिपीट करके देखेंगे तो आपको शायद इससे रिलेट कर पाओगे। या फिर अगर आपको न्याय दर्शन पता है, या फिर अगर आप भगवत गीता पढ़ रहे हैं साइड बाय साइड, तो उससे भी आप रिलेट कर पाएंगे what are the different elements in that and how those elements are differing with each other, right? Basically you can say कि जैसे कोई चीज हमें दिख रही है हम उसी को ट्रुथ मानते हैं, बट इन न्याय, वैशेषिका, सांख्य एंड ऑल द आस्तिक दर्शनास, दे सिंस दे एक्सेप्ट द टेस्टिमनी ऑफ गॉड, there are many things that are not seen by us, वो उसे भी ट्रू मान रहे हैं। तभी आप उसके सबलाइम्ड फॉर्म को इसे एक्सेप्ट कर सकते हो, दैट इज जस्ट अ लिटिल सबलाइम फॉर्म ऑफ दीज थिंग्स, राइट। आई होप आपको आज का लाइव पसंद आया होगा। अगर आपको अच्छा लाइव अच्छा लगा, प्लीज़ काइंडली लाइक, शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब माय चैनल। इसे और लोगों तक पहुंचाएं और बताएं कि फ़िलॉसफीज़ इसी पे डिस्कस होती है, इसी चैनल पे रोज़ सुबह 7 से 8। मैं विदा लेता हूँ। आज का दिन आपके लिए शुभ रहे। आज आप अपने सारे कार्य कर पाएँ, आप खुश रहें, अपने परिवार के साथ रहें। जय श्री राम।